Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlicker, chills, desolators, peasants, vessels, minions, meat sacks. Good, I'm getting faster at that again. I'm a useful idiot. Welcome. And I'm sure reading the headline, it's a pretty eye-popping number, and you're already wondering, well, how could this be? But it's a article that appeared in Counterpunch, and a lot of it is an interview with 90-year-old Ralph Nader. And I have to agree with his reasoning, and I think the idea that 200,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza is not only plausible but likely. And let's get into the details here. First of all, we have 2 million Palestinians in Gaza, so that means if 200,000 have been killed, obviously do the math. That's 10% the entire population of Gaza. And so the idea that this is genocide is certainly bolstered by those kind of numbers. And when you look at the math and look at the facts and look at the logistics and the territory, it really totally makes sense that these would be the actual casualty numbers. I know I was really kind of surprised when initial casualty figures in Gaza started coming in, and the numbers gradually rose up to 30,000. And then it took several more months to just bump up to 35,000. And that just didn't make sense to me the way this war is, well, I don't even want to call it a war, it's a slaughter, the way this slaughter has been going. Um, we have the Israelis who basically had everyone move to the south to get away from the north so they could destroy the north of Gaza. And then after all those people moved to the south, supposedly for safety, of course, they're being bombed and attacked there. So now people are kind of starting to head back north again. And one of the things that's interesting about them going back north is one Israeli spokesman said that whoever returns to the north will find scorched earth, no houses, no agriculture, no nothing. They have no future, unquote. And that seems to be true. Anybody that's looked at the footage of what is left in Gaza has to be stunned. And it doesn't really matter which side of this issue you're on. What is going on there is truly horrifying. So, and one of the things that makes the idea that that many people has been killed much more convincing, you have to realize we're dealing with a 25-mile strip of land. We're talking about 141 square miles with 2 million people in it, one of the most densely populated regions in the entire world. And when you drop the kind of ordnance and have the kind of weaponry that Israel's applied in Gaza, the numbers have to be significantly higher than the numbers they're quoting. And in fact, Israel has dropped 100,000 bombs on this congested area in the last 7 months, and 175,000 buildings have been destroyed. So there's no going back. It's very clear, and it's been clear for quite some time that the entire agenda is nothing to do with freeing the hostages or any of that nonsense. It's about basically obliterating Gaza and completely taking it over. There's not going to be a two-state solution. There's a one-state solution, and that one state will be Israel. And we're also seeing the fact that not only is Israel going to completely obliterate and then redevelop the entire Gaza region, but there's a lot of forces in play in the West Bank as well. So Palestine will cease to exist in any form. And some of the other facts that have come out are pretty disturbing too. There's 50,000 pregnant women and 180 births a day in Gaza. And needless to say, they're being subjected to all kinds of weaponry on the ground, as well as having 100,000 bombs rained on top of them. And as far as the numbers, I think Ralph Nader brings up some really good points. And all the chaos, it's nearly impossible to keep any records of anything remotely accurate to what kind of deaths there have been. The official count at 35,000 is based merely on confirmations, and in order to have confirmations, they have to be certified by hospitals and morgues. And there's no way in this environment that that kind of diligence and that kind of accounting can be done. There are no hospitals and morgues left there. And there's also estimates that at least 10,000 Palestinians are buried in the rubble. There's no bodies to count, so they're just an unknown figure. But that estimate seems reasonable as well. If 175,000 buildings have been destroyed and all the tunnels have been destroyed, then likely the number buried under the rubble is even much higher than 10,000. So the question at the end of this article, and that I also ask, is, so why are these numbers being fudged? And it's pretty obvious. The U.S. and Israel, of course, wants to display lower numbers, if you can call even 35,000 a low number, because it helps support their agenda and the continued atrocities, the continued slaughter, the continued genocide. But the more interesting element is the fact that Hamas has gone along with these numbers because they don't want to appear weak. They don't want to appear as if they can't protect their own people. And of course, mostly they don't want to acknowledge the devastating Israeli success at slaughtering Palestinians. So this is very sobering, and it was something I was wondering about all along, why the numbers seem to stall, and why, with all the bombing and all the destruction, the numbers were as low relatively as 35,000. So I think we can safely say that probably around 200,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza, and unfortunately, these numbers are never going to make it to the mainstream media, and I haven't really seen them anywhere. And if those real numbers came out now, of course, that would have a huge effect on the discussion and on the narrative. And but eventually, someday, it's quite possible those actual numbers will come out. But of course, by that point, all the damage will be done. And there's also a likelihood that those kind of numbers won't ever come out, because at the end of the day, Israel is going to control the entire state, Gaza, the West Bank, and Israel, and there'll be no way that the realities will be open to the public. So pretty sobering, pretty horrifying, pretty sad, pretty distressing. I almost can't even come up with the words to describe this. It's just so horrifying. I'm a useful idiot, don't you? Be one too.